Hi there, Mr. Jacobson here, and today we're going to talk about factoring linear expressions. Chapter 5, Lesson 8. So before we get into any examples, what we're going to do is we're going to fill in this flowchart of finding the greatest common factor. And by finding the greatest common factor between two terms, what we're going to be able to do is then factor linear expressions. So let's go ahead and start. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill in this chart at the top with two terms that we could use as an example. So in this upper left-hand box, we're going to plug in 4x. And over here, our other term will be, let's say, 12x. Okay. So if we were given these two terms, our next step would be to find the factors of those two terms. So with 4x, let's go ahead and do a prime factorization tree of 4. Well, I can pull out the factors of 2, and 2 times what would give me 4? Well, 2 times 2 is 4, and I know that 2 times 2, well, both of those are prime numbers. So I'm done with that factor tree. So I can say that the factors of 4x are as follows: 2 times 2 times x. And 2 times 2 would be 4, and 4 times x, that would give me 4x. So I know that's correct. Let's move on to 12x. Let's do a prime factorization tree for 12. And I'm going to pull out the factor 2. I know 2 is prime. 2 times what will give me 12? That's 6. And 6 is not prime. So let's go ahead and continue our factor tree down. I'm going to pull out the factor from 6 of 2. 2 times 3, well, that will give me 6, and I know 2 and 3 are both prime numbers. So listing the factors of 12x, I have 3 times 2 times 2 times x. So 3 times 2 times 2, that gives me 12, and then times x gives me 12x. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on, and let's move down to the tables now. So what we're going to do is from up above, finding the factors of those two terms, we're now going to plug this into our table. All right, and our table being, up here we'll go ahead and we'll plug in 4x. And down below we have 12x. All right, all we have to do is list the factors of our two terms. So we have 2 and 2 and x. And down below we'll have 3, 2, 2, and x. Okay, now that they're in the chart, what we would do next is we would go ahead and circle our common factors. So just to demonstrate this, I'm going to rewrite everything in this table below. And this table will show us what we're circling. So again, this would be a 2 times x. And down below for 12x, we would have 3 times 2 times 2 times x. So here, what we want to do is circle the common factors. And this is pretty easy to see. We have a 2, and that matches up with the 2 down below. So those are common factors. And we also have another group of 2. Those are common. And the last thing we have common is, or are, our x's. Okay. So in order to find the product, all we need to do is simply multiply together those factors up above. So we have 2. That's 1, times 2, that's another group we had, times x. So the product is the greatest common factor. And that product being, well, 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times x gives us 4x. All right, take a second, look over this flowchart, and if you have any questions, please raise your hand before moving on. And because for this next part, what I want you doing is I want you to create your own flowchart. It's now your turn. So go ahead, get out a separate sheet of paper, and create a flowchart for the following. You have the term 12 and 28C. Again, if you have any questions, please raise your hand and I will be over to help. Thanks.